plan settings section is where you enter many assumptions for your plan. We'll start with inflation, where you can enter the inflation rate that occurs every year. Living expenses are tied to this inflation rate, as are other expenses you enter for your plan, unless you choose to override this rate. There's also an annual COLA rate. Increases in Social Security payments and some pensions are tied to the COLA index. If you choose to have inflation and COLA vary by year, you need to enter the rates up until the year you specify. Whatever you enter in the last row will go on for the rest of the plan. Living expenses in retirement are the expenses that begin in retirement and will occur every year. So things like groceries, utilities, and car insurance. Expenses that are one-off or will not last forever will go into the goals and additional expenses section, which I will discuss in another chapter. You can also vary living expenses over time. Make sure you do not add inflation to these expenses though, because the program does this for you. Let's say in 10 years you think you will travel less or downsize your home. This might mean your living expenses will decline at that time, so you can do that here. You can also create a budget for your living expenses. In fact, you can create up to 3 budgets and save them. You can change the names of these items or add as many items as you like. When you save your budget, it will appear in the expenses input. Reduction in living expenses when partner's plan ends is for when someone passes away first, and your living expenses will decline at that point. You can have the program rebalance your investments annually. Most people do rebalance their investments at least once per year. For example, if stocks return much more than bonds do, and the balances of the stocks are now much higher than you want versus bonds in your portfolio, rebalancing is what is needed. At the end of each year, the program will set the balances of each asset class back to the percent they were at the beginning of the year, simulating a rebalancing. You can also have the program reallocate investments at a future date. Let's say when you retire, you expect to move to a more conservative allocation. You can do that here and choose from a variety of models. For example, a conservative model would have more bonds than stocks in it. Several of these models come with the program by default, and you can edit these models or create your own. If you want to apply financial advisor management or mutual fund fees, you can do that as well. Choose to apply one fee to all investments or to every account. You can set the fund fee or advisor fee by each investment account if you like. When using investment principal for expenses, you can have the program withdraw from your investments in order or pro rata. If you choose in order, you can place investments in the order you want the funds taken out of. If it's pro rata, the withdrawals will come out of each investment proportionally based on their balances at that time. Showing cash flow projections in today's dollars allows you to show all projections in today's dollar terms or future dollars. Today's dollars is the default, and it means that the program will strip out inflation from cash flows after all calculations are done. This way you can see things in today's dollar terms, which makes it much easier to understand what's happening in the future. For example, 20 years of 3% inflation a year is an 80% increase in prices over that time frame. Inflation has increased dollar values so much that it's very tough to make sense of the inflated numbers. Stripping inflation out makes it easy to compare 20 years from now to today. Once you begin taking Medicare, your premiums depend on your modified adjusted gross income each year. If use program estimate for Medicare premiums is set to yes, the program will look at your income each year when you're receiving Medicare and will estimate Medicare premiums for you. There's a separate section for tax settings. Most people have the program calculate federal income tax rates every year based on their income, or you can manually set it. Same thing for capital gains. For tax deductions, you can use the standard deduction or input your own. You can also have the program revert back to taxes that existed prior to 2018, since the tax cuts of 2017 are supposed to sunset in 2026. You must input your effective average state income tax rate, and you can change it when you're retired or even enter a year. So let's say you're going to move in 2 years to a state with a lower tax rate. You can tell the program that your state income tax rate will change at that time. Lastly, you can choose to apply state taxes to Social Security and pensions that you might have. Most states do not tax Social Security, but a few do, and some states do not tax pension income.